Evening, Erev Tov. So last night we started looking at some cases of Hilchot Brachot. What happens when a person makes a mistake and says the wrong bracha? We spoke about a case where if somebody says the wrong bracha on the food in question, you say ha'etz instead of adama instead of ha'etz. In a moment, we looked at the case where a person said the right bracha but on the wrong food. So if a person had two fruits in front of them and both have the same bracha, which is borei pri ha'etz, but one remembered while they had said their bracha that they said it on the apple, but they should have said it on the dates. They said then the person remembers once they've already said the bracha, should they then switch and take a bite of the apple first, of the date first? The answer was no. You should keep on saying the bracha on the fruit which you said it for. We discussed that last night. Anybody missed it, you can look it up. But on YouTube, it's the first one there. But so let's look at another case. So based on some questions and follow-up questions people asked me last night, and a similar case, which is as follows. Let's say what happens if a person makes the wrong bracha? So we said already yesterday, the Mishnah tells us, you said borei pri ha'adama when it was meant to be borei pri ha'etz, you're covered because the eitz ultimately grows from the ground. You were meant to say borei pri ha'gafen, and instead you said shakol. But you're covered because shakol covers everything. Question is, would that bracha, which you then said by mistake, said the wrong one, so it covers the food you had in mind, would it cover the rest of the food that you're going to eat, which has the same bracha? Right? So the example is, say a person's got two fruits in front of them. You've got an apple and a banana, for argument's sake. One is borei pri ha'etz, one is borei pri ha'adama. So we know the rules of the order of priority. We take the food, which is borei pri ha'etz. That's the bracha we say first. So a person picks up the apple in their hand, says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pri ha'adama. You made a mistake. You said the wrong bracha. You accidentally said adama instead of ha'etz. So, but you're okay. You can eat your apple. But can you then still eat the banana, or do you have to make a new bracha on the second fruit? What's the side to say yes and the side to say no? So the side to say yes is where you said the bracha, borei pri ha'adama. That food is borei pri ha'adama. Therefore, you've said the bracha. What do you have to do? On the other hand, you might say like this. You intended originally to say borei pri ha'etz. So you had in mind that your bracha now is going to cover the food which you're holding, which is the apple. But you have in mind you're going to have to make another bracha. Ended up, slip of the tongue. You said that bracha, do you have to go back and say another one or not? Okay, so that's the question. So just take it a step back, and we'll come back to the question in a moment, which is, we'll ask another question. Whenever we're sitting, we're eating a meal, we're eating many different foods, we don't say a bracha on each and every single item that we eat. Right? Obviously, if it's a meal with bread, you say hamotzi, that covers everything. But assume there's no bread. So you're having different foods, you have a number of different fruits, you only say the bracha once, and that covers all the fruit. You only say you have a number of different foods, which are shakol, you only say shakol once, and that covers everything which is in the meal. So Shulchan Aruch writes the following. He says, let's say a person's eating, you've said your bracha, you finished now the food which you had in front of you, and then he says like this, Misha bracha perot, so he said a bracha on fruit, ve'achal kach haviu lo yoter me'ato hamin, or miminacher. And afterwards, somebody then came and brought you some more fruits. Okay, not of the same, maybe of the same type, or maybe of a different type, after you've already finished what you were eating. He says there, it has the same bracha as the first one. You don't need to say a new bracha. So what's the case? I was eating something, I finished my plate. I didn't necessarily know that there was more to come. I finished. Now more has come. I don't need to say a new bracha. So what's the case the Shulchan Aruch is talking about? If the case is when I originally said the bracha, I had in mind, I've got what's on my plate in front of me, there might be more food afterwards. If I had that in mind explicitly, that there's going to be more food, that's obvious. The bracha covers everything. You don't need a new bracha. If I had in mind, I've got this plate of fruit in front of me now. I'm saying the bracha on what's here, what's on the plate, but I have in mind that this bracha is only going to cover what's here, and if anything else should come later on, that's not included, that's not part of my bracha, so obviously that's not included, and you would have to say a new bracha. So the case he's talking about is, discussed this recently in a different context, what's called kavanah stamit, meaning what most people do, which is you don't really think about things before you do them. So you say the bracha and you have stam kavanah. I'm not thinking about the fact if there's going to be more food afterwards, if there's not going to be more food afterwards. I'm saying the bracha, I'll eat, whatever will happen will happen. So he says, in such a case, it's assumed that this kavanah stamit, the assumption is that there may be more food, a person may eat, and there are certain parameters. So if it's the same food, the same type of food, which I'm eating now, and more of that is going to come later on, it's assumed that was part of my intention, and therefore I don't need to say the new bracha. Okay, there are my adds in over here. By the way, he says, Tov lizaher, somebody asked about this yesterday. He says, Tov lizaher lekatchila leyot da'ato al kol ma sheyaviu lo. He says it's better than having stam kavanah, person's eating, having a snack, having a meal, whatever it is. Have in mind that when I say the bracha, it's on whatever food I'm going to eat, and then it's all covered, and then there's no suffering. Okay, but now we can ask the following question, which is, if we say, number we combine the two things that we've just learned together, and we'll see what comes out of it. If we say that when I make a bracha, it's not necessarily just on the food that's in front of me, but I have in mind that there's more food I'm going to be eating, there's more that's included. And we say that, at least b'diavad, if I say a more general bracha, I say Borei Pri Adama, it includes things, even though there are Borei Pri Eitz. I say a Shakol, it includes things that are even other brachot. So why is it that if I first said the more general bracha, that I would have to say a more specific bracha later? For example, a person is sitting and having a cup of tea, okay, and they say the bracha, they say Shakol. After they've said the bracha of Shakol and they've had their tea, they get brought a biscuit or a piece of cake. So you say, now you have to say bracha of mezonot. But wait a minute, you just said the bracha of Shakol. And Shakol, at least b'diavad, it includes everything. It was my intention, or I had stam kavanah to eat more after the tea. Why do I have to come along and say a new bracha? So two reasons, two explanations. Rashi says, what we're saying, this whole din of b'diavad, that this bracha includes everything else, that's only in a case where, for that specific food where if I'm saying the specific food that I'm about to eat, and I say the bracha, I accidentally said the wrong bracha, okay, but it works. But that's for that food. It's not for anything else. The Rabbeinu Yonah says, no, he says it's all got to do with your intention. It's all got to do with your intention. So at the beginning, when I say the shakol, when I'm drinking the tea, my intention is, I only want the shakol to apply for things which are shakol. I don't want it to apply for things which are mezonot. But if I had in mind, when I said the shakol, that I wanted to apply for other things as well, even those which are mezonot, that would count. So how does this go back? How does this go back to our case? So the Shulchan Aruch says a similar case to what we started off. He says the following. He says, "Hayu lefanav priha adama u priha etz." Let's say we have in front of us two fruits. One's adama and one is etz. V'nitkaven lifto uberech al priha adama. So you said, so what should you do in this scenario? We know you should say Borei Pri Eitz first, and then you should say Borei Pri Adama, two separate brachot. But the person didn't do that. They just said Borei al Pri Adama. They said the bracha of Pri Adama, v'nitkaven liftoret Pri Eitz. And with that, they said, I have in mind that this will cover everything. This is the more general bracha, even though that's not the more proper way to do it. But he says it works. Yatsa, it works because you had the intention, you had the kavanah to do it like that. Similar case as well, what we mentioned before, related to yesterday with the drink. If a person has a cup of wine in front of them, and they should say Borei Pri Hagafen, but they say shehakol, by mistake, so that covers ultimately that covers the wine, and that's going to cover the things that they will drink afterwards as well. So now, plugging it back into the case we started with, plugging it back into the original case, which was, I have the two fruits. I have the Borei Pri Eitz and I have the Borei Pri Adama. I start off, the Shulchan Aruch just told me, if you say the Borei Pri Adama and you have intention that that's going to cover everything, then that's fine. But that's not what happened. The case is I take the Borei Pri Eitz, so I take the apple, and I meant to say Borei Pri Eitz, but I ended up saying Borei Pri Adama. Okay, so I can eat the apple, but now can I eat the banana? Right? That's what we just learned. So Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank, Rav Tzvi says, based on everything we've just said, tying it all together, it says, it depends what kind of a mistake you made. When we say you made the bracha by accident, you made the wrong bracha, what do I mean when you say the wrong bracha? If we say that you made the wrong bracha because you didn't know what the bracha on this food was, let's say you have a pear, you thought the bracha on a pear was Borei Pri Ha'adama. You didn't know the bracha on a pear is Borei Pri Ha'etz. So then if you say Borei Pri Ha'adama on the pear, your intention, what was your intention when you said that bracha? Your intention is everything that I'm going to eat in this setting, everything I'll have in this meal, which is Borei Pri Ha'adama, should be covered by this. And therefore, even though there was it was the wrong bracha, but it counts and it's fine and extends to everything else. However, it says if the mistake was the following, you know that what the bracha is. You know that the pear should be Borei Pri Ha'etz. You know that the banana should be Borei Pri Ha'adama. You pick up the pear. You start saying the bracha. You start saying Borei Pri Ha, and just out of habit you say Borei Pri Ha'adama instead of Borei Pri Ha'etz. So you have a little bit of a strange situation, but you would be yotzei for that which you were holding. But your intention was only for that fruit. Your intention was you're going to have to make another bracha later on as well. So he says that Borei Pri Ha'adama actually counts for the Borei Pri Ha'etz, but it doesn't count for the Borei Pri Ha'adama. Now you have a safek brachot. Now you have, because you've said Borei Pri Ha'adama. So the poskim say if you're in such a situation, you should maybe wait a little bit. You should maybe decide that you're not going to eat the Borei Pri Ha'adama now. Decide in your mind that you wouldn't eat it, and then you would have to make a new bracha. So in order that you would avoid that safek. Right. Best thing to do in all of these situations, of course, is to have in mind, to think about so often. We just mumble off these brachot without even thinking about it, and get into all sorts of questions. Safek brachot, we know, is a very serious thing. That's why we have the principle of safek brachot lahakel. So we don't say extra brachot with Hashem's name when we shouldn't. But the bottom line in our case is, again, if a person had the food and they made the wrong bracha because they intended to say one, but carelessly the wrong word slipped out of your mouth, so that would apply. If it's a more general bracha, it would apply on that specific food. But for the other foods which have the same bracha, you would need to make a new one. It would not extend across this. Rabbi Hanania ben Akasha אומר tzakadosh baruch hu lezakot Yisrael. לפיכך בא להם מצוות שנאמר אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיר